Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by me. You've just got me again, just me on my own today. Um, you may have noticed that I've been releasing less podcasts than I used to do, and I thought I should let you know why. Well, the why is that I'm focusing on my on speaking and training, and in particular working with adoption agencies to help the staff that work for them and their adoptive parents to a different perspective on trauma. And what I've been talking about quite a lot, you may have heard me talking about being trauma informed but healing obsessed, and thriving obsessed, right? Thriving, focusing on on our thriving. I've clearly also been doing a lot of work. If you watch what I'm doing in terms of webinars as well, for those groups that I've mentioned, and also for adoptees. So I I'm trying to do whatever I can to share what I've learned from my own experience, and obviously all the experience of the fantastic guests that have been on the podcast in this Thrive framework. So the Thrive framework is based on everything that I've learned over the last 3.5 years. And it's a framework for a course, for webinars, and a book in time. So that's why I'm doing less episodes of the podcast. So let's get straight to it then. The title of this podcast was Wounded or Unwoundable. And I came up with that. I came up with this parallel, this question for a post on Facebook, and I put that on. So what we're juxtaposing, we're putting these two views against one another to see what feels right to us. So I'd ask you to check in. Do you think that we are wounded, or do you think that we are unwoundable? And or do you think we're both, right? Or do you think we're neither? And I'd encourage you to uh, just go with your gut feel for that, and check in. So wounded, unwoundable, both, or neither. And maybe there's another option that I haven't come up with, right? So wounded, we're talking about Nancy Verrier and the Primal Wound theory here in a book which came out early 90s, 93, that being separated from our birth parents causes this, I think she calls it psychological, emotional, and I think she uses the word mental, and I think she also uses the word spiritual wound. Right, so that's her contention, and the name is well known. Clearly, the name is clearly well known amongst in adoption circles. This Primal Wound, perhaps a name that's less well known. A guy called Richard Schwartz. He's the founder of something called internal family systems, and the book of his that I've listened to is No Bad Parts. And his contention is that the uh, the essence of who we are, what he calls the uppercase S, that is unwoundable, right? So I think the most direct comparison between these two people, and they're both shrinks, right? They've both got their qualifications as shrinks. I think what Richard Schwartz would call the uppercase S, if he was going to give it a synonym or a different name that meant the same, he would call it spirit. he would call it spirit. And I think I'd agree with him too. I would say that uppercase S is is spirit, is consciousness, is awareness. Okay. So, but does this matter? Like, oh, first off, is Richard Schwartz a trauma denier? No. He essentially says that the trauma uh, is in our parts, but not in ourself. Right. So the clearest metaphor I've come up with for this is the cheese holder in the Trivial Pursuits game, right? So if you ever played Trivial Pursuits, each player has a little circular piece of plastic with uh, six triangular spaces in it, and you put the when you get the question right for each of the six spaces, you put the cheese in the cheese holder, right? So what I'm saying here is Richard Schwartz is saying that the uppercase S self is the cheese holder, and the parts which have the trauma in them, they're the cheese, right? They're the cheeses. They're the six cheeses. Okay. So does so what? So I posed this question on Facebook: Are we uh, un are we wounded or are we unwoundable? So wounded, Nancy Verrier; unwoundable, Richard Schwartz. But he's not a denier. He's just saying the trauma is in our parts, not ourselves. Okay, are you with me so far? I hope so. Um, what surprised me was the number of people, when I put this post on Facebook, the number of people that actually said yes, yes to Richard Schwartz. And they talked about a lowercase s self that is wounded, and an uppercase s self that is unwoundable. Right? So that surprised me because we see so much talk of the trauma that's in the parts and so little talk. And talk by talk, I mean chatter on Facebook or in groups. We we hear so little of the uppercase S self, the unwoundable part. There was maybe a third of the people agreed with that. I didn't do a tally. There were a lot of people that went with Nancy Verrier's theory, and I can understand why that might be the case. And as I was thinking about this podcast this morning, as I was walking this morning, I thought about the kind of we watch a lot of. I thought about legal dramas, right, and cop dramas, and often in a cop drama that is, it comes to court, right? And you've got one lawyer stating one thing and one lawyer stating the other. And what hits me from that is that, sometimes I know which lawyer is right, and sometimes I don't. Okay, so it's more there's more of a drama to it if we don't know who's right. But but both, when I don't know which one is right because I haven't seen the evidence myself, both people seem really, really believable. So they pick the chant, they pick the they pick the words, they pick the events, they pick the stories that suit their case. So if they're arguing for the defense, then they'll pick then they'll pick the events and ask the questions, trying to elucidate. That's wrong. That point to the defendant being not guilty, right? But the prosecutor, she or he, will pick what suits their needs too. And as the viewer, we're confused, right? And this is what adds to the drama because we're not sure which lawyer is is right. And because we're taken in by both of them, that adds to the drama. If we're clear, if we clearly know that that the defendant is guilty, for example, we think one way, and if we kind of and if we think the defendant is innocent, we think another way, and we'll see the truth in the lawyer representing the person that or yeah representing the side of the case that we know is incorrect, right? And both of these people, Nancy Verrier and Richard Schwartz, have really, really convincing arguments. But who's correct? Who's right? Or are they both right? Or neither of them right? So as you're thinking, as you're listening along to this, I'm thinking, well, are people moving from just one view that Nancy Verrier is right? Are they thinking now, oh, Richard Schwartz might be right as well? So everybody's got their own opinion on it. Everybody's got their own opinion on it and their own experience with it. So I would share my experience. And my thoughts. So when I read the Primal Wound, I thought this explains everything. This explains everything. She's totally right. And there was a relief in that diagnosis, right? Finally, I found the cause of all my stuff. And then I started hanging. I mean, at that time, I was hanging around in groups, looking at who look at self-development kind of courses, right? Looking at who we are and looking at our thoughts and feelings, our emotions, and what some people might call consciousness. And then it struck me. It struck me so clear one day that who we totally are, sorry, who we fundamentally are, is unwoundable. So what? So what? Well, it's freedom. For me, that was freedom from what my friend and colleague Jude Hung calls the trauma-bound identity. That insight was the key that unlocked the padlock that was chaining me in. And so what? What like so what? I mean, it's people were asking the question. Some people ask the question on the Facebook group. So you're asking this question, Simon, but I don't see what the difference is. Well, until we see the difference, we won't feel the difference. Let me and also, like make your own mind up. I'm positing my theory. These two are the people who are positing their theory. I would encourage you to make your own mind up. But be open. I had this great phrase yesterday, heard it before, forgotten about it. Psychological flexibility. So I'm not asking anybody to change or to change the way they think or whether they feel or the way they feel. I'm just saying that psychological flexibility has really helped me. So psychological flexibility is taking our own thoughts less seriously, questioning our thoughts, our feelings, and belief. And as I say this, I'm thinking, am I coming across as pompous and know better, that I know better here, right? Um, I hope not. I don't know. How can I judge that? But I would encourage you to take a look at this, uh, and it comes to the why thing, right? And what is this uppercase S self that Richard Schwartz is talking about anyway? Well, he doesn't. He just talks about the uppercase S self, but what he does for me far better is he explains it in terms of his eight C's, the eight C's. So they they are compassion, creativity, curiosity, confidence, courage, calm, connectedness, and clarity. Right? Those are the characteristics of the uppercase S self. Uh, and I want to just break those down for you, right? So I'm going to start with the last one, clarity. Right? When people say, yeah, when we see better, we do better. When we come out of the fog, we see the trauma, the storm clouds of our trauma, and then at some point, that trauma blows through and reveals the the blue sky, right, or the black sky if it's dark. And at some point, we realize if we're really fortunate that we are the sky and the trauma, the clouds were the trauma. We are space for our feelings. We are not our feelings. We are not our trauma. So that's clarity. Connectedness. Well, I had a huge moment of this connecting with my birth mother through reading a letter from her to the social worker about my teddy bear. And I've talked about this quite a lot, but I felt connected with her in that moment. But you haven't read my, your birth mother is different to my birth mother. You haven't read my letter. So how are you, how can you get that? I don't, maybe you've had a moment of connectedness when you've been lost in the crowd, right? When you felt connected with everybody. Maybe that's been in a rock concert, maybe that's been in a church, maybe that's been in a football ground, maybe that's been in nature. But I'm pretty sure that at some point you felt connected. You felt connected with the rest of the of the of the people that you're with or with the world. Uh, calm, 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 right? Calm. That the essence of ourself is peace. And go back to the weather, a weather metaphor here, and the storm, the eye of the storm, right? The EYE of the storm. The eye of the storm, in the eye of the storm is peace and calm. What if the eye of the storm, the EYE of the storm is that is the I, the piece of the I, the letter I, who I am, who you are. The next C is courage. And as I say that, I think of the opposite of courage. I think of the trauma-bound identity, my trauma-bound of how I am in my trauma-bound identity before that freedom, and the answer's scared, terrified, afraid. That's what the trauma-bound feels like, right? And next one, confidence. A bit like courage, really. So when I'm coming from when I'm in my trauma bound identity, I'm second guessing myself. I'm worrying. When I'm my in my uppercase S self, I'm 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 not worried. I don't fear failure. I don't fear rejection. The next C is curiosity. So I'd encourage you to be curious about this stuff and dive in. I've been curious about this stuff and it's really helped me. Uh, creativity. Creativity is the penultimate C. I'm not sure nothing comes to mind. I guess it's creative problem solving, right? The more in our trauma bound identity, we're shut down. The ideas, the idea flow has stopped, right? The solutions have stopped. The solutions getting out of whatever tricky situation we're in with our birth parents, with our adopted parents, with our business, with our partner. Yeah. And the last one is compassion. And I'd I'd urge this one because it's about looking at others rather than ourselves, right? So when I'm in my trauma about a trauma-bound identity, it's all about me, 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 me. What can I get out of this? Whereas compassion, I'm putting other people's needs first. So there we are. Uh, that's that's a summation of Richard Schwartz's eight C's, and they're the characteristics of the uppercase SL. So I'm with Richard Schwartz, and but I used to be with Nancy Verrier. Our takes change. That's part of curiosity is being open to change. And I think I'll just leave you with one idea here. This is the metaphor that I came up with earlier in the year of the kids game rock, paper, scissors. Right. So the rock is us. Um, and so that's who we are. That's the uppercase S self. That's the rock. And in the kids game, if we shake a rock, we shake a rock. If we're the rock and the other person is the scissors, then the scissors can't cut the rock and the rock wins. So the scissors would be necessary. Scissors can cut. Scissors cut paper, don't they? But if our trauma is the scissors, does our trauma cut us? Well, that would be Nancy Verrier's theory that the scissors cut rock. But in the kids' game, the rock beats the scissors because the scissors can't cut rock. But what we're not denying the trauma here. We're just saying that using the kids' game metaphor, the trauma is the paper, and the paper beats the rock because it wraps it in the rock until we unfurl the paper and reveal the rock that has been hidden by the paper, that's been obscured by the paper, that's been covered over by the paper, but not damaged by it. Thank you very much. See you soon. Bye-bye.